With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me a boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, Dell?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do?
We get the people
Yes.
what they want.
If the people wanted a little drama heading into the draft night on Thursday, that's exactly what the people got. There was a trade between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Celtics. The Celtics sending the number 1 pick to Philadelphia. Philly sending the number 3 pick over to Boston, and some future picks that do get too complicated for me to explain right now. Jalen, very quickly, why are the Sixers so high on Fultz that they're willing to give up future picks just to trade up 2 spots to get him?
Well, they've sold us, led by Sam Hinkie, who unfortunately isn't around to see the fruits of his trust the process labor, on the fact that they were going to stockpile draft picks and eventually build a roster. Now you're this close, and you need help in the backcourt. And if you look at all of the top prospects, they're a lot different. Fultz is going to be an offensively driven player that can play on or off the ball. Lonzo Ball, you hope he's going to be a pass-first player that makes people around him better, that can make open threes. Josh Jackson is going to be a slasher that you hope can be a lockdown defender. So if you're the Celtics, you're like, we really don't need a guard. We only have Isaiah Thomas, who averaged 30 last year. I really like the dynamic of he and Avery Bradley,
Marcus
who played
Smart's
really
there,
well
yep.
in the playoffs, putting up big numbers and obviously locking down on the defensive end. So that's not a need, in theory, for the Boston Celtics. You trade back, you get more assets. Philadelphia, you trade up, try to get the help in the backcourt you need, in particular because you're going to have the ball in Ben Simmons' hands, who's 6'10", a playmaker, an explosive athlete, but not much of a shooter. That's where he and Fultz will be able to balance one another off, and that's why they look to move up to get that spot.
And if you look at what Philly has now, they have a lot of potential. Obviously, you need players to stay on the court and not be injured. But if you look at them, Okafor, Embiid, Simmons, Fultz, Saric. Like, it looks like, all right, we got 5 guys that could play together, that could fill every position. This could be a nucleus that we could then develop. However, you do need everyone to stay healthy. Are you as concerned as I am about Embiid moving forward?
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, moving forward, not just this season, I hope, based on his history of injuries, as a player that I covered at Kansas, and it seems like I've been talking about for years, like, hey, everybody, he's going to be a player. Watch this guy. He can shoot with range. He can score the ball over both shoulders. He can board. He can get blocks. And before you know it, one injury after another, then this year he was able to kind of show that promise to the point where a lot of people felt like he played himself in a position to possibly be an Eastern Conference All-Star. But those injuries, I'm not sure if they're going to just subside because he's a big guy. They've been to lower extremities, and usually when that happens, unfortunately, they continue to hamper the player.
And when I said I was worried about him moving forward, I'm not just worried about him moving forward. A lot of lateral movements have been troubles for him. Jumping and landing has been hard for him. Cutting, just all movement is hard for Joel Embiid, except for the Shirley Temple pitcher into the glass, into his mouth. There's rumors the Lakers are going to get another first-round pick in the draft as well. Why would the Lakers be making moves to get themselves another first-round pick?
They need more players. They, like the Philadelphia 76ers, have built through the draft these past couple of years. But here's the difference. Clarkson, Russell, Randall, Nance, Ingram. When you look at that core group and then you look at Embiid and Ben Simmons, you probably think the Philadelphia 2 players are better.
Yes, they have a higher ceiling, I would say,
than the players I mentioned for the Lakers.
Clearly.
So because of that, now they still have to search for who's going to be our all-star caliber player. We know that Paul George acknowledged that he wanted to come to L.A., but he's not on the roster. And if you're deciding that you may want to go get him now, these may be the type of moves that it's going to take to try to, A, get him now, and or B, get you the caliber player along with your number 2 pick and the other pick that you mentioned that could be productive rotation players.
And then we've got this. We've got the Celtics sitting here. Maybe they had Fultz in and they said, you know what? We like him, but he's not the perfect fit for us, and we can also get someone at 3 that we think could really contribute. Who do you think they have their eyes on for that number 3 pick?
The pogo stick, Josh Jackson. He's going to give you defensive toughness. He's going to be able to guard multiple positions on the perimeter. He's going to be able to cut and slash off the ball. He's going to be able to get out in transition and run the break with the speedy Isaiah Thomas and make plays. He's a better ball handler than he was able to show at Kansas. He's an improved jump shooter. And you're going to need players that when LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard come to town that have what it takes to try to lock down defensively against those guys.
And then there's this from the Celtics, who seem to always have 17 first-round picks. Here are the picks that they currently own. 2017, number 3 second-round picks. 2018, number 1 pick of the Lakers, number 1 pick of the Nets, their own number 1 pick, 4 second-round picks. 2019, the Grizzlies' first pick, the Clippers' first pick, the Sacramento Kings' first pick, and their own first pick. They've got picks on picks on picks. Is this finally the summer where Danny Ainge colors up and trades all those little tiny chips in for one big, big, shiny chip? Do you see that happening this summer, and to who will he trade all of those to get a superstar?
It can be, it should be, and let's just play Monopoly. I'm just going to throw some names out there that he should be able to try to find a way to get in Boston green and white.
I love this game.
Gordon Hayward. Once he didn't become an all-NBA performer, that cost the Utah Jazz, just like the Indiana Pacers, their all-star caliber player. And I talked about this all season. This is why I don't think the player should have to make all-NBA. He should be able to be an all-star. That $70 million difference keeps Paul George in Indiana and Gordon Hayward in Utah. But since that did not happen and that isn't the rule, Brad Stevens was his coach at Butler in college. You're going to hear rumors about the Miami Heat. But with all things equal, how can you not join your college coach who's coaching on a team that had the number 1 seed and they have the number 1 pick? It just seems to make sense that that's going to go down. Now, if you're able to sign him all right, you can really now navigate the pieces you just talked about and see if Boogie Cousins, who doesn't have a long-term contract, you can try to find a way to get him in tow. See what's going to happen with Blake Griffin and his situation with the Clippers. See if you could get on the phone with, obviously, the Pacers about Paul George, the Bulls about Jimmy Butler. They have a lot of players, even possibly a Paul Millsap. There's so many players that were all-stars last year that don't currently have long-term deals with their teams. So those are the players, to me, they should try to acquire.
I love the idea of them trying to acquire Boogie from the Pelicans. The Pelicans just accidentally got Boogie because they got such a good deal for him they couldn't say no. But they find themselves with not a perfect fit for their roster. They could trade Boogie to the Celtics for a bunch of picks and some pieces and find themselves in a much better position as a franchise moving forward. They are no threat to win the championship next year. It's not like Anthony Davis and Boogie are going to tear up the Western Conference and flip-flop the whole standings. I love the idea of them making a hard run to get Boogie Cousins in the green and white in Boston, mainly because it would make the Podfather so happy. We don't have guests on this show. Legendary businessman and boxing promoter, Bob Arum. Bob, thank you so much for making the time to join Jalen and I.
Thank you. I'm legendary because I'm old, right?
That's usually how it goes. That's usually how it goes. Yeah, that's usually
No,
how
you're
it goes.
legendary because you're not a businessman. You're a businessman.
Right.
And the business you're here to discuss with us is literally with us because your fight is going to be here on ESPN on July 1st. Who are we going to watch?
Well, Manny Pacquiao hasn't been on free over-the-air television in 11 or 12 years. And thanks to ESPN and Manny, his fight with Jeff Horn from Australia will be live on ESPN starting 9 p.m. New York time, and 6 p.m. California West Coast time.
That's exciting. Why did you and Mr. Pacquiao decide that this was going to be the fight that was going to go on over-the-air television?
Boxing really needs the most exposure that it can get. And Manny Pacquiao has a tremendous audience in the United States and around the world. And we felt that if we could get Manny on free-to-air television on ESPN, the leader in sports, it would do great for Manny Pacquiao for the future, and it would be really great for the sport of boxing. The coverage that ESPN affords us is second to none. And the number of people who will be watching this fight, the start of July 4th weekend, will be tremendous.
Bob, thank you for joining the show and allowing me to be a part of the Top Rank family. I truly appreciate that. I know you. I consider you a friend. I've hosted your weigh-ins. I've worked your fights. You play chess, not checkers. When I saw that Manny Pacquiao was doing a fight on ESPN, I'm like, wait a minute. There has to be a bigger story here. What is it?
Well, it's not for me to say. I think you might call Bristol and talk to your boss, John Skipper.
He doesn't pick up Jalen's calls.
Listen to him. Jalen, I'm really on lockdown. Yeah, there are great things happening, but I am not going to comment on them because it's above my pay grade.
Well, we're very excited about this. Hopefully the start of a long partnership, but we don't need an introduction to Manny Pacquiao. Even casual boxing fans, even not even sports fans, everyone knows Manny Pacquiao. Tell us who Jeff Horn is and why he will make a good fight.
Good. Jeff Horn was a member of the Australian Olympic team. He's a tough kid. He was a school teacher, retired from being a school teacher, really has a great right hand. He's fought top talent. He's beat guys who, fought Mayweather and fought top fighters. I saw him fight in October when I was in New Zealand for the Parker Andy Ruiz fight, and he can fight. He's really good. I'm not saying he's going to beat Manny Pacquiao, but he's going to give him a terrific fight. He's a big, tall guy who has a tremendous right hook.
Bob, I was happy to see Manny back in the ring. I know he's dealt with some injuries over the last couple of years. How's he doing, and is he looking forward to doing more fights like this one?
I think he is. Boxing has become almost like an avocation to him, Jalen, because he's a senator in the Philippines. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but there are 24 senators, that's all. 12 get elected every 6 years. And he vowed to the people that he would never miss a session of the Senate. And he's kept to that promise. He can take this fight because it's when the Senate is in recess. He's introduced a lot of bills that have passed. He's a bright rising star in the Philippines, and I really believe that quite soon, within the next 5 or 6 years, he may very well be the president of the Philippines. So we're blessed that he's part of the boxing scene. He'll be fighting July 1st, actually July 2nd, in Australia, July 1st here, and hopefully again by the end of the year and then into next year. And he is looking to fight here guys like Terence Crawford, who is, as you know, one of the best fighters in the world. Errol Spence, another really terrific fighter. So Manny is not ready to hang him up yet. He's also not ready to do exhibitions. He's going to do real fights. That's a dig on his competitor.
Oh, we know.
Shots fired.
One of the things that you do and you've done your career is matching up athletes in one-on-one combative environments. Now, one of Manny's outside interests is basketball. So just in a hypothetical world, if we had a game between Manny Pacquiao and a way over the hill Jalen Rose, who would you think could win that basketball matchup?
Well, first let me tell Jalen a story because he'll appreciate it.
You're dodging the answer.
I was in the Philippines once when Manny was training. So he's fashions himself a great basketball player, and he is the owner of a team and plays on the team.
Yep.
So he asked me to watch a game where he was participating in, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. He got the ball thrown to him maybe 50 times. He has never passed once. Never. Never. It's always was up in the basket. Now, once in a while, he drove to the basket, and nobody would touch him because they didn't want to hurt him. I've never seen a game like that.
That's like watching Barack Obama's games. I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to be president of the Philippines one day.
Yeah, Manny has a pretty good shot, and he has a lot of energy and enthusiasm. But as old as Jalen is, I don't think Manny would match up.
Well, you made a brief allusion to the fight that is going to be McGregor Mayweather. What do you think will happen on that night?
They'll make a lot of money because people will buy something that is promoted well, which this will be promoted well. They're not going to see very much of a fight. I mean, for example, I've told people it's a different sport. For one of the great athletes I've ever seen is LeBron James. Mm-hmm. Tremendous. Now, if I put LeBron James in a boxing match with Anthony Joshua, say, it wouldn't be a contest. LeBron, no matter how great an athlete he is, it's a different sport. We've had experiences where guys like Too Tall Jones would go into boxing, and they really couldn't fight a lick because they had to learn the sport, the nuances. Conor McGregor is a great MMA performer, but in a boxing match, he doesn't have any chance to hit Floyd Mayweather in the behind. He's not going to touch him. I mean, Floyd Mayweather is one of the great fighters of our time, but even if Conor McGregor was fighting a 6-round fighter, he wouldn't have a chance. It's a different sport. Just the way if Floyd Mayweather or one of the boxers went in to the cage to fight McGregor in an MMA match, they wouldn't have a chance. It's a different sport.
That makes a lot of sense. Don't forget, Manny Pacquiao's title defense will be aired right here on ESPN. Pacquiao will face Australia's Jeff Horn in Brisbane, with the fight airing live in the United States on Saturday, July 1st at 9 p.m. Eastern.
And this great young kid that we have, the pride of Ireland, Mick Conlon, who had his professional debut in Madison Square Garden on St. Patrick's Day, will be on the card, and his fight will also be televised by ESPN.
You've got the Irish fans and the Australian fans.
And the Filipinos.
Yep.
There are millions of Filipinos. And all boxing fans, like you and Jalen. You love the sport, and you'll be watching it. And the thing that's important, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. Thanks to ESPN, you'll be able to watch it without going into your pocket and paying for anything other than maybe the hot dogs and the other stuff that you'll have to usher in 4th of July weekend.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much for joining us and spending time.
It was great having you.
Thanks a lot, Bob. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Jalen.
Shout out.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Jalen Rose. Paul George just over the weekend decided to let the Indiana Pacers know, you know what? don't bother. There's no chance that I am signing another deal here with this
No.
franchise. I have so many questions about this, but my first question is, why would he do that? Why would he tell the Pacers that he's not going to re-sign with this team?
My phone is ringing. I think it's on Tom Brokaw.
To everyone else, it's breaking news. To Jalen and Jacoby listeners, it's broken news.
Here's why. You got a freestyle season coming up. He can put himself in position, you hear the rumors, to go for playing with the Pacers this year, a team that did make the playoffs with him playing at an all-star level, to possibly playing for a team like the Cavs in the final year of your contract, who just so happened to be in the NBA Finals last year, and they have one LeBron James on the roster. And you make that call if you're Indiana, here's why. Now you put pressure on the Cavs front office because if you're able to find a way to get them Paul George, now if you're the Cavs, LeBron has to look at this and be like, wait a minute. I thought we were supposed to be playing in L.A. in a couple of years. What you doing here? Like, you messing up my game. I got a $20 million house in Brentwood. We just eliminated y'all in the first round. So he's on the phone with Mav. He on the phone with Rich Paul. Like, what's happening? And so, also the most important thing is the team that you currently play for, Paul George, Boogie Cousins, Gordon Hayward, you can sign a 5-year contract. When you decide to leave that team, that could cost you upwards of $40 million because the next team can sign you to a 4-year contract. And by the way, why are there contract limitations in NFL and NBA deals? But if I play baseball or hockey, I can get a 10-year deal, no problem. Another subject for another day. With that being said, Paul George also did the Pacers a solid. And as somebody that played there 6 years, I understand there are going to be a lot of people upset that he decided he doesn't want to play there for his future. But now he at least gives them some maneuverability. He did it before the draft. He did it before the season. And obviously he did it before the season ended. So now they can operate at all levels. We can't move them for the draft. Can we move them in the offseason? Can we move them in the preseason? Can we move them earlier in the season? Can we move them before All-Star break? Or you know what? How about we just roll the dice and just let this thing play out and see if we could create a sign and trade scenario, particularly if he makes All-NBA. Because not only does that 5th year cost you upwards of $40 million, like we talked about on this program, if he makes All-NBA, he could get now what's considered a supermax, which adds on another $30 million. So in theory, he would be leaving the Pacers and walking away from $70 million if he decided to leave after next year, had he made all NBA. So they have options. He has options. We talked about that his future wasn't in Indiana. I talked about him ending up in L.A., and then I seen it at the bottom of the ticker. I seen it on some headlines on some websites. Again, I don't just come on here for hot takes. Don't be surprised when the Lakers select Lonzo Ball at the number 2 slot. Figure a way, because you got to try to make it happen. And if you can't make it happen now without giving up too much, you got to find a way to hope that he's going to keep his word. We'll see if he does.
So let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ken Pritchard of the Pacers has already made the phone call to the Cavs saying, let's work something out. If you are the Cleveland Cavaliers, do you send Kevin Love and maybe a couple pieces to the Pacers to rent Paul George for the next season?
I think Kevin Love is getting undervalued in this entire process because you got to look at it from the Cavs perspective. Say if I'm correct and LeBron leaves after next year, I still want to have Kyrie and Love on the team. I know that they have not been able to win with LeBron James out of the lineup, but still, when you have 2 all-star caliber players, one that can get you 20 and 10 in Love, one in Kyrie that's become a dazzling scorer that plays his best on the biggest stage, you have to keep those guys in tow. Now, if you can bring in a Paul George And or you can find a way to get another all-star big. And I'm not talking about a big that was an all-star 2 or 3 years ago. I'm talking about a big that was an all-star this year, like a Paul Millsap. And that makes it more realistic, especially if you can sign him to a long-term deal. But the Cavs have cap issues. All of their players, they just gave deals recently that are into their rotation. And I'm not sure, and I don't think Dan Gilbert is going to continue to go into that luxury tax threshold. If I had to give up Kevin Love for Paul George straight up in the final year of his deal, when I have Kevin Love for a couple of more years, when he's going to give me something that can't nobody replace he's going to give me something that no one on my roster can replace, that's rebounding, being a stretch four, being a post-up big that can take advantage of small lineups. Though he came up real little in the finals the last 2 years, if I'm the Cavs, head-to-head, I don't do that deal.
Well, it's interesting because I disagree. First thing I do if I'm the Cavs, I do whatever LeBron James says. Okay, that's number one. But that being said, if LeBron says, I don't care, do whatever, I would probably trade Love for George. And here's why. The Cavs have a defense problem. They just really do. We all know that they are one of the statistically worst defenses in the leagues. They flipped the switch for the playoffs. But we saw in the finals they had a lot of trouble stopping the Warriors. Another huge problem that the Cavs had, LeBron James can't go to the bench. We've all seen the plus-minus numbers when he's on and off the floor. It's ridiculous. Paul George plugs both of those holes in a way that Kevin Love doesn't. Some of their biggest weaknesses Paul George can help with. I understand they're giving up something, but you do have to give up something to get something. And I think Paul George makes the Cavs a better team than staying the same with Kevin Love.
If you're doing those deals in a vacuum, as I just described, the way you talked about Paul George plugging holes, let me talk about if you just exchange those two players, and we just talk about those two players only. Eliminate Love, add George. And this is coming from a guy that played on the perimeter his entire life. You know the possession isn't over until a couple of things happen. A team turns the ball over, you get a steal and or a block that leads in transition. But most of the time, a possession is not over until
you get the rebound.
You get the rebound. And Kevin Love is one of the best rebounders in the entire game. And so you're going to take that 10, 15 boards out of your lineup. And you're going to have guys scrambling around, switching and playing D, but y'all ain't going to be able to get any rebounds.
You know what I'm doing if I'm the Cavs? I'm doing whatever LeBron James says. Jalen Rose, your man, the Kanye West of college football, always keeping himself in the news, Jim Harbaugh. Now, he usually goes to great lengths to keep himself in the news. Sometimes it's just a little tweet or something that he said, or he takes the team for $1 million all the way to a different country and meets the Pope. This one might have topped them all. He said that he would ask not Barack Obama, but Barack and Michelle Obama to serve as honorary captains on the Michigan Wolverine football team. I know you love all four of those things. What does this news mean to you?
This news means to me that we loading up the truck and we moving to Ann Arbor that weekend, Jalen and Jacoby team. That's what this means.
You know what I feel like Barry did when he got this information? He was like, I am going to get a lot of free Jordan gear. He was like, I know they're going to send some boxes with the Jumpman on the side to my house. He's like, I don't really want to do this, but I do love that Jordan gear, and that would be really nice. And then Michelle was like, what's in it for me? He's like, they got Jordan gear for you too.
And by the way, hello, I would love to get some as well.
Do you think this will happen? I'm saying no.
I think this happens.
Really?
I don't think he would have put it on wax if he didn't think that it had the potential to go down. And you mentioned he put it out there so that Barack can see the kind of feedback that it's going to get, the kind of publicity it's going to generate. And you know what else? How much?
Yeah.
How much?
What's the number on that?
How much? Y'all spent $1 million.
Yeah,
y'all spent how much to go to Rome?
Oh, yeah, free Jordan
How
stuff.
much?
Yeah, I got you.
To meet the Pope?
But, before we sign this, how much? How much is that? How much are we talking? Put a number on it. And I need to fly private. I know you love the Obamas. I know you love Jim Harbaugh. I know you love Michigan football. Another thing I know you love, Jalen Rose, adult beverages. I've got some adult beverage news here. They've done some research, and I found this kind of shocking. In the last year, wine and beer sales have been slipping a little dramatically. However, hard liquor sales are going in the other direction. I have a lot of theories as to why this may be the case. But what do you think?
We got a new president. It's going to be like that for the next couple of years.
Okay. I see what you did there, tying the two stories together. I think that this is a health thing. Like one time someone said to me, like, oh, you're drinking a pint of beer? That's basically like eating a loaf of bread. I looked at that pint of beer and I was like, oh, man, do I have to break up with you? Like, I think this is a health thing. I think that there are healthier options in hard liquor than there are in both wine and beer. Less calories, less sugar. Options in hard liquor. What do you think of that theory?
Get straight to it. You alluded to it. The bottom line is this: 12 ounces of beer or a shot of liquor.
I'm with it. Yep. Steve Kerr is very well spoken. He's very considerate. He's mature. He's all things that Jalen and Jacoby are not when it comes to public speaking. Steve Kerr did make a mistake. He said he was not going to thank his players individually. He went down the line, thanked everybody on the roster. Everybody on the roster got thanked except for Steph Curry. He omitted Steph Curry from his thank you speeches at the parade. I think this definitely means that Steph Curry leaves in free agency. What about you?
Not going to be able to do it.
Oh, come on.
It was the exact same thing when we shot Jalen versus everybody. When you stand there and you're trying to acknowledge all of the people that supported your project, that made special guest appearances, that lent their time and their support, that list becomes a laundry one that you're going to leave somebody out. Mm-hmm. And so for Steph Curry, I know what happened. He initially wanted to say him first, but it's like that's too obvious. Yeah. So I want to say him like 90% of the way through. McAdoo and McCall and Clark. We'll start naming cats.
Barnes.
And then all of a sudden you just forget, thinking that I know I ain't forget to say him when you actually did.
I love it. And you know the whole reason I brought up this story is to cover up for the fact that I forgot both Method Man and Old Dirty Bastard when I named the Wu-Tang members last week. That's the only reason I brought this up. It's an old story from last week. I just wanted to show that great minds, sometimes when put on the spot, cannot complete rosters. That's all I have to say. Me and Steve Kerr, basically the exact same person. Next we have this. Tom Brady, another Michigander, another Wolverine.
Shout out.
He's in China. And while he was in China, he's sort of spreading the football gospel. You know, a lot of big-name athletes go over to China during the offseason to sort of support their brands, their sponsors, and sort of be an ambassador for the sport itself. So here he is in China, and he said this, quote, "My dream is to play a game here in China someday." Does he really want to play a game in China, or is he just swept up in the moment saying he really wants to play a game in China?
No, here's what you want to have happen. Here's what you want to have happen.
Okay.
Options. And so he's over there. He's driving down the street. He's like, Steph Marbury got a statue?
Steph Marbury got a movie?
He's like, how much did they pay him to play basketball over here? He's like, oh, okay, got it. So here's what we're going to do then. I'm going to make sure that if and when I decide to ever hang it up, there's going to be somebody like this program that reminds me so much that I said it, they're going to offer me a check to do it. Also, it was a nod to the NFL. Hey, guys, I know you're sending people to Europe to play, and it's great, or to London, but if we go out of the country to play, I want to play in China.
I feel like they would complain about a road trip to Philly to play a game. Someone tells me flying all the way to China and back. Would you just be? I wouldn't even want to be on that plane just to hear all the complaints. His teammate, Rob Gronkowski, was at the Foxwoods Resort Casino in Connecticut. Here is what him and his 20-man party crew drank. 160 bottles of champagne, 18 bottles of Ace of Spades Rosé, 15 bottles of Dom Perignon Rosé, 16 bottles of Grey Goose, 45 orders of Maker's Mark, 24 shots of Jim Beam Fire, 3 bottles of Don Julio 1942, and it all totaled out at $100,000 that was comped by the casino itself. Are you more impressed that him and his 20-man crew were able to drink this much over the weekend, or that the casino put up the tab for it?
Well, the casino put up the tab because he was clearly there to be an ambassador or do an appearance. And so as the host, that came with one of the things that they promised him if he showed up. The other thing, it went against your prior theory. Only 24 shots.
Yeah, come on.
What's
now.
up with that?
Come on now. You guys have 160 bottles of champagne. You only did 24 shots? We need more shots from you, Rob Gronkowski and the Gronkowski brothers. Come on, you got a reputation to uphold here. For real.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. Ladies, every Wednesday we play exclusively your voicemails. So please call in and leave us voicemails. Right now, we're going to listen to the first voicemail.
Yeah, hi, this is Doug from Melbourne. Man, I'm so sick of hearing about this Marvin or Mervyn, whoever from Perth. Man, Australia's a big country. Everyone knows that East Coast is where it's at. Forget about West Coast. West Coast is nice, yeah, you know. But, look, my question is, boss move or soft move, not telling your mates about Jalen and Jacoby podcast because you want to be the first with all the hottest stories like LeBron's never leaving, LeBron's actually going to, you know, LA and CP's never leaving LA, stuff like that. You know, I love being the first guy to tell my friends all that stuff. Love the show. Shout out, Reg.
It's actually a really good question. So he doesn't tell his peer group intentionally about the Jalen and Jacoby podcast because he wants to give them the information first that he gets from us. He wants to plagiarize our opinions and sound like the smartest sports fan in the game. Is that a boss move or a soft move? I could go both ways on this. Where does your heart go?
That's a boss move.
Oh, okay, Jalen.
Here's why. I remember a time when underground artists weren't getting mainstream acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember being the guy singing E40 verses, Cool G rap verses, like they were mine. I've been there. I've done that. So I'm not mad at it at all. And lastly, when you get the information first in front of your peer group, you sound like a smart dude because we have a lot of broken news on this show.
Oh, no doubt. And here's the thing is, Jalen, you're not in all the conversations I have about the NBA, and when you're not there, I just take your opinions. You don't know how many people I've been like, Julius Randle, short arms. He's got short arms. Look at his arms. Too short. Avery Bradley, one of my favorite players in the league. All the time I do this.
That's mutual.
And if you
I'll be like, he a stretch mark 4.
Yeah, exactly. And if all of your friends listen to us and that's your source, maybe you don't want them to. And listen, at first I always thought it was a soft move because we want as many people to listen to this as possible, but I would rather have a strong, passionate core group of listeners than to fully sell out. Actually, no, I'm going to fully sell out.
I talked about this a lot. We're not a concert. We released the album for the tastemakers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for the call. Shout to Melbourne. Also shout to Marvin in Perth, my co-host. Let's listen to another voicemail.
What up, though? This is Adam from California. I was calling to see how Jalen liked the Tupac movie. We all know he said he was going to see it twice, and I'm going to be real with y'all. The movie was like 2.5 hours long, so I was just wondering how fast he fell asleep in the second showing. All right, peace, guys.
Uh-oh. Jalen, have you seen the Tupac movie?
I went and saw the Tupac movie on Saturday.
Okay. Did you stay awake for the entire film?
And as the caller suggested, and as Molly called me out on it, I fell asleep twice, she said.
Yes. You said you wouldn't fall asleep at all. I knew you'd fall asleep. And here's the thing is I was excited to see this film, but once I hear a movie is 2.5 hours, I get way less excited. I need like 10 friends to tell me that it is excellent before I go see this movie that is 2.5 hours long. Big shout to Cars 3, the best movie in the world.
And to make it so bad, we leave in the movie, I'm like, they should have said the part about how Pac was dissing Quincy Jones as Pac was starting to date his daughter. She was like,
They did.
They did say that part. That was one of the 2 times you fell asleep.
Big shout to Molly Karam for keeping Jalen honest. I love it. You cannot make it through. It's just too dark in there. You order too much popcorn. You eat it all during the trailers. I've seen this whole thing. And then you fall asleep.
And it's more.
What?
First off, I'm with my boo. I'm holding hands.
Yeah.
Adult beverages.
In the movie
I'm like,
theater? Oh, you're definitely falling asleep. You're definitely falling asleep.
I'm like, yo.
And
so now
thing,
what I have to do is I had to get the bootleg.
Get the bootleg. Get the bootleg. It's fine. You've already paid for a ticket, so don't feel bad about it. Just get the bootleg.
What's up with the love? What's up with the love?
Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate that question and the revelations that came after it. Let's listen to another voicemail.
What up, though? This is Lawrence from Houston. First off, I want to shout out the fathers, Jalen Jacoby. Happy Father's Day. Now, my question is, soft move or boss move to take your kids out and flirt with women and get numbers? That's my question. Keep giving the people what they want, fellas.
First of all, I'm going to work under the assumption that you are not in a relationship while you do this, okay? We're just going to work off of that assumption. I'm assuming that Lawrence is not currently in a committed relationship while he's doing these things. So based on that assumption, boss move. Boss move. If you're a single dad and you've got the kids and you got today's day and age, man, you got to use whatever assets you have. And one thing about women are going to look at you and they're going to listen to you giving your son or daughter little lessons and wiping the food off their face and just being a great dad, and they're going to look at you and they're going to immediately imagine you doing the same thing with your children together.
I say boss move because as you get older, there are different milestones. It's almost like, man, I turned 13, I'm a teenager. I turned 16, I'm able to drive. I get 18, I consider myself grown. I'm 21, I'm able to drink. But a couple of other things truly happen in your life that change the dynamic and show your level of maturity. One, when all of the bills are in your name.
That's one.
And two, when you decide to make the sacrifice and have kids and bring them into this world. And so once he has done that and it's Father's Day or whatever day it is and he's out and about, I have zero problems with that dynamic.
Now, one thing about this I want to say is make sure you're going to kid-friendly places. You know what I mean? Like, you can't bring the kids to, like, a concert that they're not going to enjoy just so you can get some numbers. You don't bring them to the bar where single people are just to get some numbers. It has to be organic. You have to take them somewhere that they'll enjoy, and then hopefully there'll be a single lady there for you to talk to. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Jalen and Jacoby, what's happening, fellas? This is Gary on the check-in from the Nutmeg State. Jalen, it's almost here. Sunday's the day. Reg, hit the music. They say this is a big rich town. I'm comfortable with fun. Oh, I can't wait. Now, Jacoby, there's an old saying. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I don't know if you know, but Reg and Marvin from Perth are in cahoots with the kangaroo apocalypse. Yes, it is true. Every time Marvin calls in, he shouts out Reg and Daniel. I did some research. Daniel's an acronym. The D stands for Detroit, where Jalen's from. The A stands for Amherst, where you're from. 413 stand up. The N, the I, the E, and L. Next, it's Earth. The L stands for Long Live the Kangaroos. Be careful, guys. Something needs to be done. These kangaroos are rallying all through the zoos across the nation. This is a serious, serious business. We need to stop this before it happens. And you guys are the ones that make it happen because you always give the people what they want. Jacoby, shut this kangaroo apocalypse down. Later.
So we need to make sure he's SAG eligible and send him a check for his contribution to the show.
Hold on a second. I always did wonder why Marvin shouts out Daniel. Because I've always wanted this. Jalen, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I can't think of anybody that works on the staff that's named Daniel. No. I can't even think of a name on the staff that could be mistaken for Daniel. And I've always been curious why Marvin shouts out Daniel. And now I know. It is his way of using our distribution network to communicate to the kangaroos throughout the world to ignite the kangaroo apocalypse. I'm so glad we got this call. Jalen, is there any other thing that could possibly be happening with Marvin from Perth?
Not at all, but he made the pertinent point first. The 25th. Hit the music, Reg.
I just come from the poet's part. Bright light, city life, I gotta make it. This is where it goes down. I just happen to come up hard. Legal or illegal, baby.
I came front one of the favorite memes I seen online after Eminem shouted out Molly in the record, where it has a picture of us and a picture of Tommy sitting in the middle. But it's Eminem. It's hilarious.
Jalen,
looking like you.
I'm very excited for Power. Not that I'm going to watch. I'm just excited for you to watch Power next weekend. Jalen Rose, over the weekend, there was a revelation that none other than Sean Carter, Hove, Jay-Z, Jigga Man, is going to release an album titled 444, like the time 444. Not too much is known about this project, but we do know it is going to be out June 30th. But here's the catch. Exclusively on Tidal. Is there any way that you sign up for Tidal just to listen to this album? Because there's no way I'm doing it.
I might have to finally bow down.
No chance. I know you. You are not going to go on and put in your credit card information and your address, put in your email, then verify the email. You're not going to do any of that. Here's the thing. Tidal's not going to be around in a year. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Tidal's going under. Anyone who's been paying attention to how Tidal is doing as a business knows that Jay-Z didn't even want to make this album. He just tried to do it to save Tidal.
You're right. I'm not going to do all of that. I'll get my assistant to do it.
There you go. Well, for those of us that don't have assistants, can sign up to Tidal if you have Sprint and get a free trial. But you still got to put in all that information. And here's one thing I know about the internet. If Jay-Z drops an album, it's for free somewhere. Someone's streaming it illegally, and I'm not afraid to stream it
Hove album
illegally.
This is how he was rocking it back in the day.
Oh, no. For those of you listening to the radio, Jalen Rose just put on a ridiculous Kangol-style LL Cool J bucket hat. Jalen, we have an announcement. It hasn't been 1,000% confirmed, but it's like 99% confirmed that Jay-Z and Beyonce in a Los Angeles area hospital welcomed their twins into the world. One boy, one girl. First of all, one boy, one girl is the optimal set of twins. Then two girls, and then if you have two boys, just change your name and move somewhere else. But I want to say this, is twins are still in the hospital. There were some minor complications, and I just want to give a shout to Beyonce's family, Jay-Z's family. They're going to get through this. My twins were in the hospital a little long, too. That's just kind of the way it goes with twins. And this is going to be excellent. Big shout to Jay-Z and Beyonce, dropping twins and an album over the course of 2 weeks. What a world for Jay-Z. You'll never believe this, Jalen Rose. Kevin Durant is going to opt out of his contract with the Golden State Warriors. That sounds like big news. You know what I mean? Kevin Durant just wins a championship and then opts out of his contract. But what does this really mean? Take us behind the curtain.
Puts him in a position to sign a long-term deal. When he came to the Golden State Warriors, the reason why it was a unique move to see two MVPs playing on the same roster under the age of 30 at the same time is, one, the first couple of years of the deal didn't cost him a significant amount of money versus staying in OKC. This is why the NBA instituted a rule that now creates a distance in the fiscal gap so that now if a player decides to leave the current team, it's going to cost him a lot more money. Since KD was kind of the last all-NBA caliber performer to change teams under that rule as he joined a 73-win team, he only signed a 2-year deal. Now you opt out after the first year, you get your big-time deal. Steph Curry going to get a big-time deal. It's going to be interesting to see what Andre Iguodala does. Of course, he's going to be listening to rumors and innuendos. And if somebody's going to, I'll give you the max, then he'll bounce. But if the money is comparable, then clearly I expect him to stay. But we shall see.
Could it be that he signs another short-term deal and gives himself another year before he signs that 4 or 5-year deal to give the Warriors a little bit of flexibility so they can do things like make a great offer to Andre Iguodala and to Sean Livingston? Because he could definitely do another 1-and-1 just like the one he signed and then look at the end of next season when he signs the 4 or 5-year deal.
That sounds like a great idea, but no.
We'll see. There are reports that said Andre Iguodala will be fielding offers from other teams. Teams like the Jazz, the Clippers, the Bulls, the Timberwolves, the Hawks are reportedly interested. Any chance that Andre Iguodala leaves the Bay?
Somebody pay him substantially more. If the Golden State Warriors are offering you 8 and somebody else is going to pay you 16, you out.
It's
now,
that
if the money's
simple.
comparable, no question. Now, if the money is comparable, then you find a way to make it work it out.
Okay. KD did something on Twitter that I'm sure we've all wanted to do at some point, but we've had the willpower not to. He basically spent an entire flight just going back and forth with trolls on Twitter. Here are some of my favorites. Somebody tweeted at him, "God, imagine if all the basketball legends did what you did and joined the team that beat them in the playoffs." KD's response, "So you're calling me a legend? Thank you." Absolutely brilliant. And one more before you respond to his responses. Someone tweeted at him, "Ha ha ha, if there's one professional athlete to be cyberbullied on Twitter, it's you. Your bleep got billied in the Western Conference Final last year. Also scrub." KD's response, "You can't guard me one-on-one, though." What is KD doing?
He's just showing his personality of a guy, as you mentioned on this show a lot. Two of the most honest groups of individuals are usually kids and the elderly. Mm-hmm. And you talk about the fact if you want to get the most out of an athlete, get them win.
They just won a championship. So it's basically children, the elderly, and athletes that just won championships are the most honest people in the world. I also think that this has been something that's been bubbling up inside of him. He clearly cares about what the public thinks about him, no matter what he says. And I think that it really did bother him last summer when he was taking all these shots for joining the Warriors. And now that he's finally sort of cleansed himself of that feeling, he wants to legitimately interact with these people one-on-one now that he has this championship trophy behind him having his back.
Now I want to see his mom, Wanda, get one of those LeVar Ball autograph deals. That'll be a good look.
LeBron James over Father's Day weekend had a birthday party for his 10-year-old son, Bryce. There was also some video at this birthday party. It was sports-themed. LeBron James was dominating 10-year-olds at a 9-foot hoop at basketball. He was catching touchdowns over them. And they had a water balloon fight. Water balloon fight, always great at a party. LeBron James and I believe his wife, Savannah, were going hard with the water balloon arsenal at the children. Did this seem like one of the best birthday parties you've ever seen?
It was amazing. It was amazing for the kids that got a chance to attend. And that hoop wasn't 9 foot. That hoop was like 8 foot. He was out there like Wilt Chamberlain on them. And I love to see him going up and down, not only playing ball, not only playing basketball, but playing football and just having fun. That's what you say all of the time. People don't celebrate and enjoy life enough. I'm glad he was doing that.
Me too. Jalen, we have a simple segment here. I will read a headline that's prominent in the world of sports and pop culture. If you want to discuss it, you ask me to hit the brakes. If it's not worth discussing, we simply keep it moving.
We be moving, you know we keep it moving.
Jalen Rose, first up. Brooks Koepka? Can't say this guy's last name. Koepka Brooks won the U.S. Open by shooting a 67 on Sunday to finish at 16 under par. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
No Tiger, no Phil, keep it moving.
We be moving, you know we keep it moving.
Come on, Sergio. Come on, John Daly.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders have released Vince Young.
Keep it moving. He played a couple of years in the league, won a national championship in college. He put in his work.
He did. Manny Pacquiao's title defense will be aired on ESPN.
Hit the brakes. Big shout out to Bob Arum and Manny Pacquiao.
Shout out.
This is a game-changing move. ESPN, boxing, with the remote control in your hand that isn't pay-per-view. I hope in the future we get a chance to see more up-and-coming, prominent fighters fighting on the worldwide leader. And us covering the fights.
Me too. A giant 132-year-old lobster was released to the wild after 20 years in captivity.
Hit the brakes.
Let me tell you some more about this lobster.
You left out the most important thing.
What's that?
Where?
Louis the Lobster is a 22-pound lobster. He was brought to a speedboat to his new home near the Atlantic Beach Reef in honor of National Lobster Week. Here's a quote about Louis. Louis has been here for 20 years. Oh, that's in Hempstead. Louis has been here about 20 years. He looks like he's ready to go. He's the largest and oldest of all my lobsters. It's both happy and sad. Last week, a customer offered $1,000 to eat Louis on Father's Day. His name was Jalen Rose. Jalen.
I was about to say, that's all it takes. We spend that at Prime 112.
That's a lot of money for a lobster, man.
4.5 pounds.
That's a lot of money for a lobster. I just kind of feel like perhaps Louis isn't ready for the world out there. You know, Louis been in captivity for 20 years. Maybe he won't adjust well to being out in the wild. Are we sure that Louis has what it takes to be a 22-pound lobster out there in the Atlantic Ocean streets?
Nah, he won't be able to survive really long.
Is there any chance that you're going to go to the Atlantic Beach Reef and search for Louis the Lobster?
Nah.
Have you noticed that really, really big lobsters don't taste as good as the smaller ones? Have you noticed that? I've noticed that.
That's why you got to get it grilled well done. So by the time you get it, it's 25% of the size that they advertise.
Here's what Jalen does. He orders it grilled well done, looks at it, doesn't even taste the meat, sends it back to get it more grilled. Doesn't even try it. Doesn't even try it. Just can tell from like the looks of the burn marks on the lobster whether or not it's well enough done.
Need to have skid marks like your underwear when you was growing up in Amherst, Massachusetts.
I've never had skid marks on my underwear. The Titans struck a one-year deal with ex-Jets wide receiver Eric Decker.
His wife is an artist. Now he's in Nashville. He going to win this race?
I didn't know that angle. Good for him. Austin Rivers declared whether or not he would visit the White House under Trump if the Clippers won the the NBA championship.
I'm not mad at Austin Rivers for giving his opinion. A lot of people don't realize that Shelly Sterling, who not only still has access to front row tickets, the wife of Donald Sterling, also gets a couple of championship rings if they ever win it all. This is why Austin ain't going to have to worry about chasing the dog. Even if they get Paul George, which I'm pretty sure that they're going to be in the run-in, trying to sign and trade and all of that, he ain't going to have to worry about chasing the dog. I think the karma on that franchise still lives. And based on that, if they do win a championship, he probably won't be on the roster at that point because it'll be 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, if you're Austin Rivers, I like Austin Rivers. You know what I mean? I think that he gets clowned a lot, but I watch a lot of Clippers games, and he does have moments where like, oh, this dude is like a legitimate NBA scorer. Like, he's not scared or timid when he has the basketball, to his benefit and his detriment sometimes. But I just feel like when you're asked this question and there's a camera and a microphone involved, the smart thing to do is be like, I will worry about winning the championship first before I tell you whether or not I would attend a fictional invite to the White House.
Unless you just want to take shots. Can't be mad at that either.
Austin Rivers, always willing to take shots. You know, always willing to take shots on and off the court. Austin Rivers.
Like what we did there.
Former NFL head of officiating Dean Blandino argued for eliminating overtime in the NFL. I'm hitting the brakes on this one. Jalen Rose, let's imagine Roger Goodell stepped down and said, I've spoken to all 30 owners, all 32 owners. There's something that needs to happen here, and that something is that Jalen Rose is going to replace me as the commissioner of the National Football League. But before he does anything else, we need him to fix overtime. What would you do?
Well, I don't want to bury the lead. So first off, guaranteed contracts would be in the league.
I knew you were going to say that.
You definitely wouldn't have to go to college for 3 years before you entered the draft. You can celebrate and dance all you want. Your contract length could be as long as the team was willing to pay. I wouldn't punish for marijuana. Only if you was blowing on game day, like 24 hours then.
You got a window?
Got to holler at you.
You got a window, okay.
You know what I mean? I got to holler at you.
What about once the game's over, all good?
Yeah, once the game is over, you do what you do.
Okay.
And now, as we get to the overtime rules, here's what I truly think they should do. And I know a lot of people have had opinions about what should happen with the overtime rules. I don't like ties. To me, at the end of the game, the fans and or the player should leave and somebody has a victory or an L.
Mm-hmm.
I say both teams get a possession if a team scores a TD. Other than that, game over.
Game over?
Game over. First TD wins, unless you're able to tie it. Like in street football. That's how we play.
Yeah, it almost feels like you should turn the clock off. And where
street football.
It's you each get a possession, and then after that, it is touchdown, you get to match. No, field goal, you get to match. Touchdown, game's over. That's
Correct.
how I would do it. If you kick a field goal, the other team still gets another possession to match. If you get a touchdown, then the game is over. That's how I would
Correct.
do it. Right now, we're going to open up our 1-800-FLOWERS Twitter feed because we have a simple motto.
Give the people what they want. They want justice.
First question we have on our 1-800-FLOWERS Twitter feed is from Matt. Jalen. Matt wants to know, am I crazy if I think the Lakers should take De'Aaron Fox instead of Lonzo Ball?
Yep. You're not crazy. The problem is you got to draft based on what's already on your roster. And even if you felt like Fox was a better player, you got to pay attention to the fact you already have Clarkson and you already have D'Angelo Russell, which makes you too small at that position. So that is the reason, along with the fact that I just think Lonzo Ball probably has a bigger upside because he's taller.
I also think that De'Aaron Fox, whenever it's like, oh, he'll learn to shoot in the league, it's like, I kind of like my players to actually already be able to shoot. You know? So, oh, don't worry. Like, we'll iron that out in the league. You mean like putting the ball inside the basket when it's in your hands? That seems like an important skill for a professional basketball player. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Like, oh, he's really fast and plays defense. Like, oh, that's cool. But I like players that can put the ball in the basket. Lonzo Ball's shooting form concerns me. But I think you make a great point when you're like, you've got Magic Johnson, who's got a large say to do with these decisions. And Magic Johnson likes himself a very tall, pass-heavy point guard. I can imagine why he would end up picking Lonzo Ball. Alex has a question
pick
for you.
him.
Alex wants to know, Jalen, if you were on a cereal box, which cereal would you want to rep?
If I was on a cereal box, I would want to rep Captain Crunch.
Really?
Sure.
It's an overrated.
Not that it's my favorite cereal, but
you just like the outfit?
No, it just sounds like it's the tougher of some of the ones that I was going to name. Like Golden Grams or Cocoa Puffs.
Jacks.
Yeah, that don't really sound too tough. You know what I mean? Frosted Flakes.
Fruity Pebbles? No?
Not going to be don't get fired.
Not going to be able to do it? Captain Crunch does sound a lot tougher than he looks, though. You know what I mean? Like when you hear about Captain Crunch, like, oh, Captain Crunch is coming. Then you see him, like, oh, this old dude, this short old dude. Come on now. Next question is from James. Why on Father's Day women expect us to get on the grill while restaurants are crowded across the country on Mother's Day? I just want to give a shout out to my significant other. Because you know what I did on Father's Day? I left at 8:30 in the morning and came home at 7:30 at night. That's what I did yesterday.
To me, Father's Day, like any day of celebration, a birthday, for example, you should do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And so if cooking does that, if spending time with your family, friends, and loved ones, whatever it takes for you to celebrate, make sure you do it, in particular with your loved ones.
Absolutely. April has a question. April says this. Why is Jalen Rose's angry old man voice always Southern? I think it's a multi-regional angry old man.
Yeah, I didn't realize it.
Yeah, angry Jalen spent time all over the country. You know?
Yeah, I thought he was more suburban than Southern.
Yeah, angry Jalen has spent a lot of time all over the country. He's like a military baby. He doesn't claim any one region over another, not even one country over another. The only thing that he really reps for is his own anger.
I'm glad you pointed that out, though. I do a better job of diversifying that.
Okay. Dew wants to know, Jalen, what would be harder to fight? Okay. 5 dog-sized Jacobys or 1 Jacoby-sized dog? Let's imagine a standard dog.
5.
Like
multiple.
But not because a big dog.
Because multiple, no doubt. Because here's the thing. When you're going against one item, you have a better chance of disabling. Once you get on the ground and there's 5 of them, you done.
5 dog-sized Jacobys or 1 Jacoby-sized dog? Yeah.
5, no doubt.
It's probably harder. Oh, this is a question just for you, Jalen. Heather knows how to get on the show. This is for you. Love the studio. What's your favorite piece of memorabilia in there? You've been waiting your entire life for this question.
Favorite piece of memorabilia? All of the pictures.
What is the one thing that you need on the wall in your shot? Because, again, if you don't listen to the show or watch the show or you don't understand how much care Jalen puts into his background on this program.
I can't front that Ice Cube Boys in the Hood, repping Doughboy with the Jerry curl and the Detroit hat on. That's going to be up there for a while. Or that Jackson 5. Like E40 said, they tycooning.
The Jackson 5 picture, it doesn't really translate when you watch it on television, but it is 5 of the Jackson children next to a pool. They're all like driving a different, I want to call it like a mini scooter. It's a motor mini scooter. They all have different colors, and they're sitting by the pool, and then there's just the mother and father, the parents, just looking over their children. Next, 2 questions from GLM. First question, Jalen, how does it feel to always be breaking this news?
It feels good. Yeah.
Do you wish you got more credit?
No.
That's a lie.
I don't want to give up my sources. I could, but I don't want to give up my sources.
You wouldn't get any more news once you give up the sources. That's how it works.
Bang.
You can say whatever you want here on Jalen and Jacoby, though. You know, we don't have the executive oversight that some other programs do. You know, we're on late at night. You know, the executives are usually home by the time we come on the radio.
Wait till the draft on Thursday.
Ooh. Oh, is this a tease? Also, PG-3 to the Cavs in 2018. Do they win a ship?
Not if the Golden State Warriors are healthy.
If Paul George is on the Cavs, you still don't have them beating the Warriors.
You add Paul George, you got to give up something.
Let's assume it's Kevin Love.
No.
Disagree with you there.
But you pick Cavs in 6, so of course you do.
I still think the Cavs will win in 6.
Of course they will.
Is there a better chance that PG and Bron go to the Lakers? 3-part question from GLM.
I predicted that LeBron ends up in purple and gold. Indiana controls the destiny of Paul George. They're trying to get some value in return. I don't think they're going to get that level of value unless the Cavs just are willing to give up Kevin Love. So with that being said, don't be surprised if PG-13 and LeBron James, as I've put on wax for the last month, along with Alonzo Ball, because you're going to see breaking news at the bottom of the ticker. I promise you. It's going to be Lakers are going to draft Alonzo Ball. And all of the people that listen to this show, like, come on now, we already know that.
I have to ask you one more question because it's brilliant.
Brace yourself. Jalen Rose is about to explain a movie plot.
This is from Tyler. Jalen, can you please explain the plot to the upcoming movie Mike and the Mad Dog?
Yeah, you know, man's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up watching Cujo back in the day. It's just a guy named Mike.
Yeah, he's just Mike.
You know, trying to do what he can to keep his dog corralled.
Yeah, gets out though.
Came up in a different era where you didn't have to pick up after the dog when the dog left feces on people's lawns and on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Just Mike.
So now he's walking the dog, and all of a sudden he's required to do all of that. And people are starting to get on Mike about it, and before you know it, the dog has to defend Mike.
That's just what happens. He
becomes a real-life version of Cujo.
It's not a feel-good movie. The Mad Dog just eats everybody. Then Mike and the Mad Dog end up taking over the world. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Make sure you go to iTunes, rate this podcast, and review this podcast. Tell your friends to subscribe to this podcast. We love our everyday podcast listeners. Thank you for being one of them.
Give the people what they want.